How's it going, everyone? Welcome to the next video. As you can see by the title on the whiteboard, today we're going to talk about SLC 500 from Rockwell Automation migrations. And this is a topic that I was asked about with one of my current customers. They have a large install base of such PLCs and are trying to figure out a strategy on how to move their plant away from this obsolete platform. And of course, there's some design and engineering and industrial automation considerations when it comes to moving away from a legacy platform onto a variety of different existing ones. So in this video, we're going to cover some of the challenges of moving away from the SLC 500 platform. We're going to talk about the different families of PLCs, and we're going to talk about three distinct paths of transition to a newer or a better standard than the SLC 500. And of course, for the purposes of this conversation, we're going to remain within the Rockwell Automation ecosystem. There's always an option if you're looking to completely migrate away from Rockwell onto Siemens into Automation Direct. That is going to be a lot more nuanced and involve a lot more complexity. However, without any further delay, let's briefly discuss the SLC 500 platform. Generally speaking, the SLC 500 is a fairly robust before RSLogix 5000 and Studio 5000 were released on the ControlLogix platform. So just as the ControlLogix, you will often find racks of SLC 500 in a very similar fashion. Here you have the power supply, usually you have the CPU, and then you have a lot of your different I/O modules. You can find the racks in three different configurations, once again, just like the ControlLogix, which has a few more varieties, but you are limited to the amount of I/O you can put on any given rack, at which point you can then expand the platform with a variety of different other I/O configurations, including the Flex I/O system. You can also talk about in the past protocols like Data Highway Plus, you had ControlNet, you had DeviceNet, so a lot of different options when it comes to different cards. And so it goes without saying, you had a lot of very standard I/O, right? So I/O on the 24 volts, you had I/O on 110 or 220 VAC, right? You had I/O on relays. You had I/O when it comes to specialty modules like high-speed counters, servo drives, so on and so forth. And you also had, as I've mentioned already, a lot of the different protocol cards that you no longer see in quote-unquote modern control system. So there's going to be a couple of migration paths that I typically propose to customers. So first of all, your CPU is usually the main component or the brain of the operation, and there are 5 different PLCs available for the SLC 500. So they're going to be your 5/01/02, 3, 4, and 5. And so only one of them is going to natively talk over Ethernet, and that's going to be the 505 version, so 5/05 version. Hence the reason why usually the first step, if you have any of these PLCs, you can immediately or almost immediately migrate over to a 505. What this allows you to do is connect this PLC onto the plant network and allow for, again, remote connectivity, some data collection. You can start implementing message instructions if you have other PLCs maybe reading some information. It does not necessarily solve your problem of having obsolete hardware as well as communication protocols, but it gives you the opportunity for the engineers to start digging into the program and understanding what is inside of this rack, what is going to affect should we migrate to something else, and is usually the first step that I recommend most manufacturers take, as it is the easiest one. You don't necessarily need that much downtime. You simply move the program over from whichever PLC. Of course, ensure that the PLC is not using some kind of a converter from, for example, Data Highway Plus or RS-485 or RS-232 from the main connection in front of the PLC. So once you have done this migration, as I have mentioned, you can take the time to understand what the program actually does and what is possible for you in terms of a more permanent migration. And typically the second step is going to be using an AENTR card, which is going to replace the PLC. This is going to come in here and go into the PLC slot, at which point your entire rack becomes remote IO. And so the only approach or the only possibility of doing this is if you convert the program from RSLogix, so RS500 to RS or Studio 5000. So this is the requirement for this specific migration. And you can use the conversion tool. There is a Rockwell built conversion tool that allows you to move RSLogix 500 into RSLogix or Studio 5000, which makes it easier, but I would say it is not always ideal. So there is some massaging of the code required to make this happen. Number two, the question then becomes, where does this code actually run? And so this is where a architecture design needs to be discussed, because usually you can, so again, this AENTR card is going to provide you an Ethernet port, which will then tie either to a ControlLogix or a CompactLogix. It doesn't necessarily matter which type, but it becomes a connection. So imagine this is an ENBT card. This is one of the older cards, and this also has a connection, and it goes to the rack, and this becomes your remote rack inside of your tree in RSLogix or Studio 5000. Of course, this PLC, chances are, is already running or controlling some kind of an area. So you need to double check, does it have enough memory? Is it able to accommodate all of the cards? So this is the complexity of this migration. So once you review the program, there's going to be, of course, different modules inside of the chassis, and it is possible that some of those modules will not be compatible with the RSLogix or Studio 5000 version that is running inside of this PLC. It is also possible that you will need to go and download different EDS files, which will then allow you to upgrade also the firmware of your controller cards, and thus allow you to connect and see them inside of RSLogix and Studio 5000 for that any given version. So again, the caveats here are, of course, multiple, but what I usually recommend is you extract the program that you have inside of your PLC, you convert it to the RSLogix or Studio 5000 equivalent, you then add all of the cards into an offline program of this PLC to ensure that they all communicate and are connecting as expected. You then run a small proof of concept. So you probably take 2 hours, maybe 4 hours, maybe an entire day of downtime, where you swap out the PLC with this AENTR card. You make sure that everything is communicating as expected, and you always have a way to go back to the original setup, which is putting the PLC back, which should have a backed up program at that point. So this is going to be the second point of migration. Now, it is important to realize that depending on your process and environment, it might be critical for you to have this as a standalone rack. For example, if you're going to work in any chemical or food and bev plants, it is possible that you have a skid that needs to be powered down for CIP, for example, or you have a skid that's going to be relocated. A lot of those earlier racks were on movable equipment, and so what you will run into, if you cut this controller communication cable, you're going to get a lot of different faults, and if you don't handle them properly inside of your PLC, you're going to run into trouble. Therefore, it's possible that you cannot simply migrate to a quote-unquote remote IO block, and you need to think about a more permanent solution. And so at that point, you have several options, and I'm going to just make space on this whiteboard for a moment. However, at this point, you're migrating the entire rack to an entirely different platform. And this I will call migration scheme number 3. You are choosing at this point, do we go the ControlLogix, or are we going the CompactLogix? And Personally, the main consideration, because you can ultimately find a ControlLogix PLC that's going to run Studio or RSLogix 5000 of whichever version you would like. The CompactLogix is a lot more cost effective, number one, but also you start being a little bit less restricted on the I/O side, at least when it comes to local I/O. And what I mean by that is there's going to be different versions, right? There's the 1769 series of controllers. You will have controllers on the so 1769-L1 controllers are going to feature 1734 style of I/O. You're going to also find the more recent versions, right? So the 5069 series are going to feature the 5000 series of I/O that you can find on the newest models of CompactLogix series. And of course, in 2026, Rockwell has also released the new 5034 series of I/O, which is a lot more compact. So now you have 5034, and so you have a lot of options when it comes to how you allocate that I/O. Now, I want to go back a little bit and add a small warning when it comes to moving over to ControlLogix or CompactLogix. Remember that in the world of slick 505s or slicks or 500s in a general sense, you had a very different protocols. So I have mentioned a couple of them, right? So Data Highway Plus is very common. You have DeviceNet, you have ControlNet. And so, of course, depending on your plant environment, the only option for some of these protocols is going to be on the ControlLogix side. Now, I would argue that you should be eliminating these protocols and moving to Ethernet IP as part of this migration, but it may be very costly. So it is common to see a, for example, Data Highway or again, ControlNet or DeviceNet card inside of these Slick 500 chassis that then talks to multiple points of I/O. It talks to different drives. It talks to VFDs. And so as part of the migration, you start to add up the cost of everything that needs to be changed onto Control or CompactLogix, and it becomes quite expensive, again, depending on the budget, depending on the need to modernize. And so you need to be very careful when considering the ControlLogix route versus the CompactLogix route. I would say that from personal experience, a lot of these, or probably 80% of use cases that I have seen could migrate to a CompactLogix, and probably 20%. And again, these are vague numbers. It of course depends on the industry, depends on the complexity of the rack, but they can go into a ControlLogix. Now, going back to the scheme number 2, and I can tell you personally that I have made that move for many different customers, it is perfectly acceptable to put in the AENTR card here, move the software to an existing ControlLogix or CompactLogix, and simply have a backup should that rack fail completely, if there's issues, if you cannot source any more parts, but they will probably increase in price over the years, so that if the rack does fail, you have something in the back pocket that you can simply move into. So create a document that would explain the migration in the event of a failure, but it's perfectly fine to leave the I/O as it is in the current rack. In terms of other considerations, because this always comes up, why should we pay or why should we invest in simply moving this rack to a new platform? Number one, I just mentioned, the hardware is becoming not only more expensive, but also more difficult to source. So if you go to sources like eBay or Radwell, the components have been going up in price. Number two, Rockwell no longer sells those parts. So if you go to a distributor, the chances of them selling you parts for a slick 500 deployment are slim to none at this point. Number three, a lot of the manufacturers are looking to better connect to their systems, and as part of that initiative, you can usually justify a certain number of upgrades. So remember, of course, if you're talking to this rack over Data Highway Plus, you will struggle to extract the information that you need in certain instances. There's usually going to be a much lower limit of connections from these racks as opposed to the more modern implementations on ControlLogix and CompactLogix. Last but not least is, of course, the cybersecurity side. So these components are no longer getting any updates from Rockwell. There are going to be a lot of different vulnerabilities that are known and documented. And so if you're going to connect them directly to your OT networks that are potentially to some extent exposed to the IT side, you risk running into problems. I have personally not seen a lot of that happen, but again, manufacturing facilities are not necessarily going to disclose those kinds of attacks and downtime, but it's definitely something to consider if you want to remain compliant to your cybersecurity posture, as these components have been obsolete in some instances as far back as 2017. In any cases, if you have any questions, if you're looking to migrate from the Slick 500 platform to anything else, it could be ControlLogix, CompactLogix, it could be other brands as well. Don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. Happy to help and happy to help you on your industrial automation journey.